depends on who you ask when I ask this question, but looking back at the Missouri matchup, you came in as a 32-point underdog. You lose by 17. In your opinion, are there moral victories?
I don't believe in them. I mean, I think there's things that you can take away that are positive. I think you still have to look at it. You coach with such a critical eye. I mean, I look at the things that really stuck out to me as I was so proud of our kid, the effort that our players gave us. I mean, they just played with a toughness and a grit. They just kept, the same play, the next play mentality. And so I was very proud of our effort. I thought, really the game boiled down, no disrespect to Missouri, but it really boiled down to about 5 plays. You look at, at halftime, we're down 2 scores. We'd given up a punt return for a touchdown on a ball that we didn't have a very good punt, and then we just let up right there thinking the guy wasn't going to field it, and it takes a big old hop right up into his hands, and all of a sudden, we didn't our distribution to the field was not good, and we let him get out over there. So that was obviously, then the rest of the game it's excellent. I mean, we just so I was proud of our effort in that regard. Then you look, our first drive, we get it going down there, and we get it second too. We're moving the ball, having great success, and gonna answer the call. I think the score was 7-3 at that particular time. We're getting ready to be, it was 7-0 maybe, and we were driving the ball really effectively. Get down there, second down and 2, and we jump off sides. So it didn't get second 7, then third and 5, and then we kicked the field goal. And then on 2 different occasions, just step out of bounds right there on right just shy of the sticks and get held on both of those. Have to punt one time. I mean, just things like that. Had the busted coverage communication. And it was something that we had worked on, but we got to execute. And that's where the discipline aspect of it comes in. But no, I'm very proud of our young men. I mean, we went in. I didn't think that the moment was too big for them. I thought they handled playing in an SEC environment very well.
When you look at a team's loss, a lot of people will say that you learn 10 times more in a loss than doing a win. What do you feel like you learned about this team?
I hear people say that. I don't know if I agree with that. I think you learn from both. I think it's, it has to be a constant. And the thing that we're preaching to our players is that it doesn't matter. Your preparation is essential each and every week. You have to still have that desire to want to get better after a win. You have to have that desire to improve after a loss. I mean, so to me, I just believe in consistency. I believe in the same approach each and every week, no matter who the opponent is. Just focus on us, and that's where we've been trying to put our focus. And if we'll continue to do that, if we continue to stay hungry, because if you've won a couple of games, that doesn't mean that you're going to deserve victory the next 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. You got to do what it takes to deserve victory. And you have to, and when you've prepared like that, and you go into a game, then you expect to win, and you feel like you've done everything to deserve to be able to win the game. And that's been what we emphasize with our players. And if we'll continue to do that, we'll give ourselves a chance to continue to win.
You said yesterday you watched one game, AC Missouri.
Yeah.
When you look back at that matchup, you mentioned giving up some big plays. That was something that you saw, especially in the first half. When you talk to the coaching staff, you talk to the players, looking back at those big plays, how do you make adjustments to make sure that doesn't happen next week?
Well, I think you have to identify what was the breakdown, in which we obviously, that's what we do on Sunday after the game. And so we identified where the breakdowns were. Then we go out that evening and we correct it. With not only off the video and in meetings, then we go out and we walk through it and correct it on the field, just to make sure and ensure that we don't have those same breakdowns again. Because college football is really funny. I mean, you give up something and all of a sudden here it comes for about the next 5 or 6, 7 weeks. You're going to see the same things, people trying to attack you to see if you did fix it. So we spend an enormous amount of time making sure that we do get everything corrected. And I was actually wrong. I watched us in Missouri, and I watched Western New Mexico play. So it wasn't just the Missouri game. Sorry about that.
So speaking of Western New Mexico, what's the difference between them and your Lamar, PVA, and AMU home games that you had?
I don't think anything. We try to get into a routine, and there's always there's a very fine line. I talk to my staff about it all the time, that routine cannot be mistaken for complacency. And as long as that routine, we're continuing to do the things that it takes to focus on winning and get our players prepared. That can't just become, something that, we just get into a rut. It has to be attention to detail, and then there has to be a high standard of accountability with that, holding each other accountable to that as well as our players.
And you said going into that Missouri game that you didn't want your guys to lose their heads and feel overwhelmed in that environment, in the setting of the game. Do you feel like they kept their heads?
They really did. I thought our kids were focused. I thought they went in there and they competed at a very high level. Was so proud of in the game of football. It's not real complicated. It's offensively and defensively. I was very proud of our performance. We didn't give up a sack to an SEC opponent. That was a major improvement. Up front, very proud of those guys on that side. And I felt like we controlled the line of scrimmage for the most part defensively in the course of that game. Scored the one touchdown off of the strip sack, and that was very impressive. So there's a lot to build upon, and we don't just focus on the negative from a loss. We also take the positive and reinforce the positive and things that we did really well, and just go, okay, hey, look, let's look at these 4 or 5 plays. Because typically, in the course of my 38-year career, 37, however long it's been, there's about that much difference in winning and losing football games. And typically, it's somewhere between 4 and 5 plays a game. It was no different on Saturday. The difference between going 4-8 and 8-4 can sometimes be that much. And I felt like it was that way Saturday. There was 4 or 5 plays. If we could change the outcome of those 4 or 5 plays, we would have positioned ourselves to be in a chance, to give ourselves a chance to win the game.
Last thing, looking to stay undefeated at home. Just overall, that mentality for this week.
You bet. We've talked about it all since fall camp. Our goal is to go 5-0 this season at home. We have 5 home games, and we're currently 2-0, and that's all that really matters. That's all we're focused on. It's not the outcome. We're focusing on the process and everything that it takes, and getting prepared to go 3-0 this week at home.
Carrie.
Who were some players that stood out to you in the game on Saturday?
Yeah, obviously, I was very proud of Jack Schultz. I thought Jack, he had 4 tackles and was very, he was very physical. Will Morgan up front, Tyron Bradley continues to do really good things. I thought Elijah Moffitt on defense probably had played the best game maybe in his career here. So very proud of all those guys. And I thought up front, I thought our offense as a whole unit showed improvement. I was very concerned going into that game with Missouri's size and athleticism and up front. And so I thought our offensive line did a great job stepping up and performing well as a whole. I thought Tristan Golightly played really well, had 5 catches and made some nice plays after the run. And then obviously Jeremiah Dobbins, made some nice runs and played well. Maybe his best game of the season to this point. So a lot of things to build on, and we just got to continue to improve.
And then last thing for me, what kind of energy, because after a loss, kind of it could bog players down maybe a little bit, but what kind of energy do you hope that the players bring into their game on Saturday?
Well, like I said, I think, we kind of go by a lot of times when you win, that means we can even continue to coach harder than to keep their attention. Sometimes when you lose, you got to build people up. I don't feel like our kids felt like we lost. I feel like that they realized yesterday after watching the video, I feel like they see the mistakes that we made, whether it just be communication, and we pointed all those things out. If we'd have said, hey, before the game, if I'd told you this game is coming down to 5 plays, play each and every play like it has a life of its own, I bet you would have communicated differently in the course of that. I bet you would have played with just that much more effort. So we try to turn a negative. It's like Walt Disney. We try to turn a negative into a positive.
Coach, for me, you guys have had 3 starting running backs in 3 weeks. Is that just kind of a hot hand approach? What did you see from Dobbins and Gleick on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, it goes into preparation. I mean, if you go out to practice and you practice with a purpose, then you're going to earn playing time. Everything is earned, nothing is given, and it's day by day. Just because you've done well the first 2 games, that doesn't give you the right to play or start or game 3. So as long as our guys continue to do things right on and off the field and give us their best, which is the standard, then they'll be rewarded with that on Saturday.
You touched on the line, but your O-line hasn't allowed a sack in 2 weeks now. Your D-line gets 9 tackles for a loss last week at an SEC school. What are you seeing in the trenches so far?
I like their aggressiveness. I mean, Danny Phillips and Ryan Pugh, both on both sides of the ball, are tremendous football coaches, and they're bringing out the best in those guys, and they emulate their coaches. They get coached hard and they play hard.
I had just a couple questions, actually. I know this week is family weekend. You get a lot of families, a lot of the freshman parents coming to see the game. For some players on your team, they may have their parents and family in the stands possibly for the first time this season. How do you avoid them getting distracted with having relatives now at their games?
You know, that's really a good question. It's the first time I've ever had to respond to something like that, but that's why I've always liked playing on the road. I mean, playing at home is great, the convenience of it, but there's a lot more things to manage. Your kids that's what people don't understand. Not only that they got study hall and treatment, and practice and meetings, and now they got family coming in. Now they're worried about tickets and, oh, God, I got to get, man, hey, can I trade you for your ticket? I mean, there's a lot of, I don't like to call them distractions, but there's a lot more things that our players have to manage on a home game that they don't have to manage on an away game, because we're on an airplane, then we're on a bus, and then we're in a hotel, and it's pretty simple. Where when you're at home, they're in their normal environment, so it's a little bit, they have to manage things well. But again, that's where we go right back to our foundation of discipline. You have to be disciplined and self-disciplined to be able to handle things like that. And it's just part of the process of maturing mentally and making sure that you can find time in there. And we keep them pretty tied up as well, on Friday and Saturday leading up to the game. So there's just a small window, but we want them to enjoy. They've been away from their family. We want to make sure that there's time carved out in there to where they can enjoy the people who are coming to support them.
I think I saw half the team at Twisted Root Burger Company this past week because it had just opened. Have you had the chance to get over there?
Yeah, not since Lubbock. We had one in Lubbock, and we used to take recruits there, and yeah, good place to eat. I hadn't had a chance to get over there.
Just also with it being family weekend this week and coming back home and playing another team that you guys have never played before. I know you've only seen them play once, which was literally yesterday after your game that you went back through. What do you see that's the strengths and the weaknesses of that team?
Yeah, I mean, they're like any football team. Everyone has talent, and it doesn't matter. I mean, like our message to our players, it doesn't matter. I mean, I said, just put yourself in Western New Mexico's shoes. I mean, a lower division coming to play someone, man, this is their big game. I mean, like they get to go up and play a Division I opponent, and so the way we approach that is that that's when we don't put a lot of, you can't get up here from Missouri and then, we're playing a Division II opponent this week. We don't even focus on that. Our focus is on us, because most of your struggles in any organization or team, it comes from within. It's the individual battles, the getting people to get them to focus and to get them to make sure that and it's hard when you're dealing with 105 people. You're trying to get 105 players. You're trying to get 10 full-time coaches and support staff. That's a lot of people to manage, and trying to get them focused and understand. So that's where we rely on our discipline instead of our motivation. We rely on our discipline to do things daily to help us achieve the outcome that we obviously are trying to attain.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate your time.
Thank you,
Coach.
Thank you, Bet.